Our journey continues in the world of Pokemon as our hero reaches his next destination, the Johto region. With each new region bringing a new and exciting adventure his way, our hero plans to... Oh, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. I was just trying to get a quick snack in before we started the video.
You should probably get back to talking about Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Fine.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pokemon Legacy. Are you happy now? Hello? The year is 1999, and we are in the height of Pokemon fever. Video games, movies, plushies, Happy Meals, Tamagotchis, macaroni, birthday cakes. If you can imagine it, there was Pokemon merchandise out there somewhere calling your name. So with all of this success, there was really only one thing for the Pokemon series to do at this point. HD Remaster. Ported to console. Kill off the series. Obviously, with the critical success of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green, a sequel was pretty much inevitable, and can anybody say we were surprised? Donphan, Togepi, Ho-Oh, Marill, all of these Pokemon were shown off in the anime before any public reveal of a new title. So 3 years later, we saw the arrival of Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver, released in Japan on November 21st, 1999, while coming to North America almost a full year later. Now, Generation 2 is where things in the Pokemon series get interesting. Pokemon Gold and Silver is the first of many regions to have a very dedicated fan base. If you ask anybody what their favorite generation is, odds are they're probably gonna say something along the lines of Pokemon Gold and Silver. Whatever series you have the fondest memories of as a child is probably the series that you proclaim is the best. Now, in my personal experience, this is the first generation I ever played, the first time I experienced anything Pokemon related in my entire life. When I hear praise about the Pokemon series, more often than not, I hear about how Gold and Silver are hands down the best Pokemon games in the entire series. So with that being said, I'm gonna bitch about it. Now that doesn't mean I don't love Pokemon Gold and Silver. Some of my favorite Pokemon and Stantler came from this generation. There is no generation that can truly match the feel and wonder that the region of Johto provides. However, you could also say this about any region and the statement still stands, so what does that tell you? But what makes Johto so beloved by many? Why do people refer to this as the definitive Pokemon experience? They put the legendaries on the box art. Yes, Pokemon Gold and Silver were the first games to start the trend of using the legendaries as the box art. This probably stemmed from parents not knowing the difference between these two games, so it made it easier for kids to just say, "Mom, it's not complicated, Silver has the dragon on it!" Although it is smarter when thought of as a marketing strategy, it also makes a lot more sense from a gameplay standpoint. See, Pokemon Red and Blue focused more on an urban setting, while the game still focuses on the original concept of series creator Satoshi Tajiri's fascination with traditional bug collecting. Red and Blue was flourished with new age technology like power plants, laboratories, cruise ships, you get the picture. However, Gold and Silver are a complete contrast to this, with Johto being a region steeped in tradition. Bellsprout Tower, Ilex Forest, Ruins of Alph. Since we already know what Pokemon are and how they fight, this is a more in-depth look at the world of Pokemon itself. Almost all of this is possible due to the hardware upgrade to the Game Boy Color. See, Red and Blue are fine games, no doubt, but there was so much data that they needed to fit on one cartridge that major cuts had to be made. The reason Gen 1 seems so bare bones in comparison is you have a fairly sizable overworld, but the developers weren't able to put as much care and attention as they wanted to into it. Johto, however, has such a life and charm to it, this genuinely feels more like the RPG experience that many people expected when they first picked up the series. Characters continue on side quests, various Pokemon can hold different items, it really feels more like the RPG that Game Freak wanted to create without having the constraints of restrictive hardware that didn't allow them to truly capture their creative vision. But Xalem, you went on a tangent. What the hell does this have to do with the box art? Well, Pokemon Gold and Silver, just like any other game, have a very long list of complaints, one of the most prominent being a lack of story. Generation 1 went with the criminal organization route. It's cliche, it's unoriginal, but it gets the job done. Even though it's simple, it gives you a reason to progress through the game and it keeps you interested throughout. Generation 2, on the other hand, follows Team Rocket picking up the tattered remains of their organization from the first game. I like the concept, I think it's a nice segue for the series, but it's a very short story that can pretty much just be summed up by saying Team Rocket is causing trouble for the sake of causing trouble. In In short, some passionate, unnamed members of Team Rocket want to rebuild the glory of Team Rocket 2 years ago. By the way, this game takes place 2 years after Red and Blue. Team Rocket wants to send out a message to Giovanni, who went into hiding right after his defeat. To do this, they poach the Slowpoke and the Slowpoke well. This has nothing to do with the main plot. Use radio signals to evolve Magikarp at the Lake of Rage. This kinda has something to do with the main plot. And take over the radio tower in Goldenrod City to send a signal to Giovanni. This took me about an hour to complete. Told you I was gonna bitch. Now, on the surface, this is pretty bare bones by comparison, but I think the overall storytelling goal of Gold and Silver was much different than most make it out to be. This entire region is built upon you, the player, creating your own adventure and forming your own memories. I know I'm cliche, just look at me. I know I've talked about this before, how the entire Pokemon series is built around this concept of creating your own adventure, but just let me make a case for why this is much more prevalent in the Johto region as compared to Kanto. Gold and Silver is built around the concept of time. No, not time and space. Come on, we're getting way too ahead of ourselves. I'm talking about daytime, nighttime, noontime, milk time. This whole entire game structure is based around your system's internal clock. Now, I have my complaints about how in my most recent playthrough, I made it all the way to Violet City without ever seeing a Generation 2 Pokemon, which is something I'll bitch about in a bit. But play the same game at night, and you're bound to see nothing but hoot hoot. This is the first game in the series to have different encounter rates separated by the times of day, but this perfectly captures the atmosphere and storytelling elements that Gold and Silver were trying to set throughout the game. Johto isn't a game you're supposed to speed through in one day, which I'll admit, if you do, it can be a pretty bare bones experience due to the lack of a central conflict. But Johto builds its region around the premise that you can do a myriad of different things depending on the time of day, and there's always something new to explore. Keep in mind how Pokemon gained its notoriety. Playground's rumors of how if you go to the Lake of Rage and cut the grass, you could find scuba gear underneath and go underwater. Like, this was an actual playground rumor that people fell for at my school. You can't go underwater in a Pokemon game. I still tried to do it though. Take these rumors and think to yourself, oh, if you go to the innermost part of Union Cave, you can find a Lapras on Fridays. Yeah, sure, I'll believe it when I see it. Oh shit. In the first game, when you beat the Pokemon League, you can catch Mewtwo, finish the Pokedex, and that's about it. In Gold and Silver, every city has a reason to revisit, whether it be daily events, exclusive Pokemon. There are different day of the week siblings that gift you specific items by finding them on each day of the week. This is why there's such a small emphasis on the main story. The entire region has so much more to offer than its Gen 1 counterparts. And the best part is, it's all entirely optional. You don't have to do any of the things I've mentioned, of course you'd be missing out. Technically, you can beat the game and realize that you never found the box art Pokemon, driving you to go to the Burn Tower or Whirlpool Islands, furthering the world of exploration in each game. Congratulations, I finally got to the point and it only took me 5 minutes. Now, all of these atmospheric additions are well and good, but that doesn't mean anything if the game doesn't mechanically feel good to play. That's why I went ahead and taken the liberty of making a bulletized list of every single thing that I think is an upgrade from Gen 1 to Gen 2. Number 1, one of my biggest issues with the first game is the lack of a wide variety of moves. I talked before about how bug types have little to no damaging moves, and hell, even Ghost and Dragon Pokemon can't do any damage to you that aren't Nightshade and Dragon Rage. So I am glad Gold and Silver nearly doubled the amount of moves in Gen 2 that actually do damage. I can have a party going into the Elite Four that doesn't involve the move Flash. A good bit of this can be credited to egg moves, which I'll get to in a bit, but TMs are a major upgrade this time around. There were some good TMs in the first gym, but I promise you, I am never going to use TM30 Teleport in any Pokemon game when I have a myriad of different items that work better. And I like the implementation. Each new gym leader gives you a second generation move from TMs, and if that's not enough, between the department stores and game corners, there's almost 20 different TMs that are essentially usable more than once. Of course, I can't mention new moves without mentioning new types, 2 of which are brand new, and 2 others that are heavily expanded. Ghost and Dragon types were introduced in the first game. They were about as prevalent as Teleport in terms of implementation, but they had much improvement here in the second gen. Both types got 1 extra Pokemon each, Kingdra being the Dragon type and Mischievous being the Ghost type. While I would have liked to have a bit more representation, I do appreciate that they got way more moves, with non-Ghost and Dragon Pokemon actually able to learn some of them, especially Shadow Ball, which was very helpful in taking out Psychic types. The highlight here is the 2 new types, Dark Pokemon and Steel Pokemon, which are basically just broadening 2 types that already exist. Steel types are a more sturdy Rock and Ground type. The problem with Rock types is, although they are a defensive wall, if you have a Water or Grass type Pokemon, you're pretty much fucked. which makes it so much funnier when steel types give a big f you to rock types. I really like steel types. Although their moves aren't too useful in this gen, they are defensive walls, Fortress and Skarmory being active threats and a pain in the ass to fight. The Magnemite line gained the steel dual typing, and I think it was a nice addition, which also gives a bit of diversity to the electric types. Steel is one of my favorite types, but my favorite of all time is the dark type, introducing some of my favorite Pokemon like Sneasel, Houndour, and Murkrow. They did not skimp out on dark Pokemon this generation, and you could say the same about steel types. Dark Pokemon are used as a straight counter to psychic and ghost types, and holy shit, this was so much better. Dark type are some of my favorite to use. There's enough fighting and bug types to counter it, not making it too powerful, but enough psychic types to make it a force to be reckoned with. The only problem I have with them though is almost all of these Pokemon aren't available until the post-game. Of Karen's team, 2 of which aren't dark types, Houndour isn't even available until after the post-game, alongside Tyranitar and Sneasel. That doesn't make me love him any less, but if you want to show off the new type and mechanic, don't you kind of want to put them in the game for people to know they exist? Despite the shafting of dark types that makes me want to drink bleach and hallucinate for a couple hours, Generation 2 made one of the best changes in the entire Pokemon series. That being the split between special attack and special defense. In the first gen, special attack and defense were, for a lack of a better word, so in second gen, the special was split between the two, and it is amazing how big of a difference this made. Take a Pokemon like Alakazam. Based on Gen 1 rules, he's more of a defensive wall than Golem. With a new special defense stat, he could still take a Hyper Beam, but if you poke him with a stick, he's gonna faint. This was an excellent balance made by the team, and makes a lot of Pokemon far more usable than their Gen 1 counterparts. But hold your excitement, I know you're ready, because we are finally gonna talk about mail! If the special split wasn't enough, then how about letting your Pokemon have hold items, allowing them to boost stats while in the middle of battle? This made Pokemon feel so much more like a traditional RPG, and now I can feel like my team building actually makes a difference. This was a good excuse to add berries to the game, which are bare bones compared to what we have now, but back then, that's really all we needed. When I was younger, I didn't pay this any mind, until I found out that if you trade a Pokemon with Metal Coat, you can get an upgraded version of that Pokemon. That's pretty cool, I gotta say, but even cooler than that, I can trade any items to my friends if they don't have it, which is amazing. I can even add a cute little message via mail if I wanted to. Theoretically, if you wasted your Master Ball on a Rhyhorn because you're a child and a fucking idiot, you could trade one over to your friend, of course with a Pokemon in tow. This was a genuine thrill seeing hold items come to Pokemon, and was a lot of fun. But you know what else is a lot of fun? Gen 2 introduced genders and the concept of breeding. That's right, Pokemon heard the calls and finally gave trainers the option, allowing you to inseminate your Pokemon to create babies. Now I know a lot of you might be confused at the topic of sex, so I went ahead and made a diagram explaining the whole entire process from start to finish. 2 Pokemon fall in love, they get very close, they take off all their items, and then they upload a video to a pornographic website. By putting 2 Pokemon in the daycare, you can receive an egg with brand new baby Pokemon introduced, and I gotta be honest, these are kinda lackluster. Togepi and Pichu are both adorable, but Magby? You can't tell me his head doesn't look like something you'd see on a pornographic website. I'm not a big fan of the baby Pokemon this generation, but I can't deny the fact that now any rare Pokemon that you have can essentially be duplicated. You didn't have to buy 2 copies of the game just to get multiple starter Pokemon, just pop them in the daycare and you're good. This also made Ditto far more useful than he was in the first game, which is probably why he's located right outside of the daycare. I feel the daycare was overlooked because it was pretty much just a method to train extra Pokemon while you're out and about, but now daycares are like a glorified brothel. Damn, no wonder this is located right below a casino. Even better than that, by putting odd species together with specific moves, you can pass those moves down to your children, giving Pokemon attacks that they otherwise wouldn't have. You ever see a Cubone f*** a Snorlax? As far-fetched as this is, pun intended, it's nice to see Pokemon continuing to fully make use of real-world elements such as this being implemented in their games. The difference is, breeding horses is one of the most controversial sports in the world, and breeding Pokemon is genuinely a lot of fun. But hold your horses, because we gotta talk about something that most people didn't know existed until about 10 years later. Shiny Pokemon. I think all of our jaws collectively dropped when we saw the red Gyarados in the Lake of Rage for the first time. Like, come on, that's so cool. Look, Mom, it's different. If you're tired of me mentioning the playground rumors, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not. The concept of shinies were completely based around this as well. Even though finding a shiny Pokemon is a 1 in 8,192 chance, when you come across a shiny Pokemon in certain locations, speculation is bound to spread. Of course, you have the opposite effect. My first experience was a shiny Psyduck that I found on Route 34 35, and I promise this is a true story, I thought my game glitched, so I turned it off.
Yep, I know, I'm a disappointment.
But what wasn't a disappointment is for the first time in Pokemon history, we finally got to experience trainer rematches. The hardest part I find about going back to the first generation is the lack of anything to do after the game is beaten. Once you're complete, I think there's only like 5 characters that you can rematch, but that's not a problem in Gold and Silver. With the addition of the cell phone, there's a ton of replayability options, so you're not grinding wild Pokemon for the remainder of the game. Sure, it can be a little annoying when you're in the middle of something and you get a phone call.
Joey, I really don't have time to talk right now. I just found out my mom's in the hospital.
Yeah, man, that's great. So, like, I got these new shorts the other day.
But I love seeing the worlds more fleshed out, and if I'm in the area, I'll actually come back and do that rematch. But if you don't like NPCs, if you hook up your Game Boy with another player, you can visit that trainer in Viridian City and actually fight your friends in the game without being connected. Every day you can do one battle against the last trainer you used mystery gifts with, and I don't have to explain how cool this is. Wait.
This takes place in Viridian City.
You cannot talk about Gold and Silver without talking about going back to the Kanto region. This is the only region so far where you could visit the generation prior, and it's one of the biggest reasons these games have such a dedicated fan base.
Welcome back to a brand new segment that I like to call Hot Takes, the only show that combines hot foods and hot opinions here on the internet. The concept is really simple, you only need 2 things: hot foods and a take. Going back to Kanto isn't that good.
Now, although I do like the concept of going back to the first generation and having that kick of nostalgia from your first Pokemon experience, this does not feel fleshed out. It feels more like a reason for people who were hesitant to purchase Gold and Silver to just get a quick nostalgia kick. I'm not gonna deny, going through and seeing everything again is nice, but there is absolutely no challenge here, and it feels like a waste of time in my opinion. There's no real purpose in challenging the gym leaders when the only one who actually poses a threat is Blue, the last gym leader you have the option to fight. There's no Safari Zone, Cerulean Cave is holed up, none of the legendary birds are here. It seems like all of the side quests from the original games just didn't make the cut. But what I find worse than that is there is a lot of Gen 2 Pokemon that can only be found in the Kanto region, which does not make any sense whatsoever. I feel like if they didn't add the Kanto region, we would have been able to have so many more rematches and Pokemon locations throughout the Johto region, which is why I have always found Kanto in this region to be more like a chore.
However,
I do think that the build-up to Red was really well executed as a form of post-game content. When Red's mom says that his son is a strong trainer that's been off for a long time, that's actually really cool. So when you get to fight him and he has the most powerful Pokemon in the game, it genuinely is one of the most memorable parts of Gold and Silver. And although I don't like Kanto's inclusion, I cannot deny that bringing back all 251 Pokemon is the smartest thing that the Pokemon series, and possibly any series ever, has done. I can't think of another game series that has quite the mechanic like the backwards compatibility in Pokemon games. To this day, the main reason why people still play Pokemon is knowing that you can bring in all of your Pokemon from past generations to play in this one.
alright. We've got 2 more to go through. Lance and Silver aren't that good.
Lance is nowhere near as good of a champion as Blue is, and honestly, he's probably one of my least favorite in the entire series. He shows up once and bodies Team Rocket, and then when you meet him as the champion, he just says, "No words, let's just fight." Now, I will admit that the champions are much more integral to the overlying plot in later generations, so I don't think this is too much of a hot take, but let me explain why I think that Silver in Gold and Silver is one of the weakest rivals in the series. Let me start by saying that I love asshole characters in video games. I've always thought the motives of villains and rivals are always underappreciated. I like thinking of the psyche behind their actions, and for the longest time and to this day, Silver is one of my favorite rivals. But in the original Gold and Silver, he's just a cocky asshole. You kick his ass time and time again, and then finally Lance kicks his ass and he says, "Oh, maybe I should try to treat my Pokemon better." Now, I will admit, it is heartwarming seeing him again in Mount Moon when he's more open and honest towards you, but in the original games, and notice I said the original games, there is not as much depth as people like to state that he has. That was given to him in the Heartgold and Soulsilver remakes when it was alluded that Silver is canonically the son of Team Rocket boss Giovanni. I love that concept, and when playing Heartgold and Soulsilver, they did a fantastic job at making him a deeper character that I genuinely love seeing. But that game is from Gen 4, and we're talking about Gen 2 here, a game in which he just doesn't feel as good as his Gen 1 counterpart.
And that was Pokemon Gold and Silver. I really like this generation. I think there's a lot of fun to be had, and in almost every single way, it's a big step up from Kanto. But what's more important is that the Pokemon within the generation have to be just as good. I'm probably gonna bitch again.
I'm honestly not too fond of a lot of the designs for Generation 2. I don't think any of them are inherently bad, but a lot of these just feel kind of like an afterthought of Generation 1. I think it's a really neat idea that a lot of these Pokemon have creative ways to discover them, like with increased friendship. There's a good bit of bug Pokemon that are only available by headbutting trees, and some Pokemon are only obtainable by trading with a specific item. But I think these gimmicks are a bit too prevalent, with a lot of Pokemon taking a back seat to show off these mechanics. Plus, so many of these Pokemon aren't available until the latter half of the game, or once we've already made it to Kanto. Half the fun in playing a new generation is discovering the new creative ideas that Game Freak had for new Pokemon. When in my playthrough, the first Gen 2 Pokemon I found was Togepi, which I admit there's a bit of luck to that. There's a bit of a problem with new Pokemon being represented, and a lot of these gyms don't show off the new Pokemon like they should. Falkner, Bugsy, Morty, none of these characters have Gen 2 Pokemon. Hell, CM Gym doesn't have a Heracross or Hitmontop, the only two fighting types besides Tyrogue introduced in the game. It's weird that the gym leaders give you a new Generation 2 move, but don't really show off any Generation 2 Pokemon. But listen, I know I've got my bitching out of the way, but there are some Pokemon in this generation that I genuinely do love. I think the starter Pokemon are pretty decent, but I think the middle evolutions are some of my favorite in the entire series, especially Croconaw. He's got this fierce prehistoric vibe to him that really gives off his personality. Meganium has always been my favorite, not because Feraligator's name is an English major's nightmare, Typhlosion looks absolutely ridiculous in newer generations, but it was the first Pokemon I ever used, and I refused to use any other starters in a playthrough. My final team included Pokemon that I nicknamed like a 5-year-old. Grassy, Dracula, Sean, Bacon, and Bird. I like this team. It got me very far in the game, and I was actually able to beat Red with Pokemon around level 50. It just really upset me that I wasn't able to use Houndoom or Sneasel, both of which are only available after the post-game. I promise I'm done bitching. Sneasel is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, but unfortunately in the second gen, he is just absolutely terrible. With a split between attack and special attack, both Dark and Ice are both special attack moves, which is not Sneasel's specialty. With Sneasel having some of the lowest special attack stats in the game, he can't really use any of his natural moves to any sort of effectiveness. So even though I love you, you're still pretty worthless. Eevee got 2 new evolutions, Umbreon and Espeon, available once you got to Ecruteak City. I always love the new evolutions. They're always implemented when they want to show off a new core mechanic in the game, this game being happiness level at nighttime. I've always been a fan of Umbreon, I mean, come on. But Espeon is an adorable little cat, and you can fight all 5 evolutions in the Kimono House, which is a nice way to introduce the concept. Murkrow is a bird with a cute little hat. That's it. I really like Teddiursa. He is one of the most adorable Pokemon in the entire series. I don't like how he's only available at the very end of the game. But you know what I really don't like?
The alphabet?
Unknown is a really cool concept. I like knowing that the Pokemon series had some sort of hieroglyphics, and the Ruins of Alph has some of my favorite puzzles in the series. I think it's fairly cool that all 28 letters, yes, you heard me right, are in the game, but I would have liked some puzzle element involving the Unknown themselves and unlocking different parts of the story. Of course, I also fell for the rumor that if you take the word Celebi to the shrine in Elix Forest, you could get the legendary Onion Fairy, but obviously that didn't work. But the other legendaries are really cool. Entei, Suicune, Raikou, these are on par with the legendary birds, even though I'm probably not getting any of their pronunciations right. The only problem is, they roam, and that is abysmal. I think it does work with the take it slow approach of Gold and Silver, but even with that being said, I still hate it. These legendaries are really well designed, but they cannot compare to the box art Pokemon of Ho-Oh and Lugia, or Lugia, I still don't know how to say it, but it's the white Plesiosaur with Aeroblast. I love that the lore of this game is loosely centered around these two, but Ho-Oh is clearly the shining star here, and that's kinda disappointing. Ho-Oh is treated as this mythical guardian Pokemon of legend that resides over Ecruteak City, spreading myth and legend across the land, while Lugia is a dragon in a cave. And he's not even an actual dragon. As for the areas they're in, Burn Tower, really fun. Whirlpool Islands, f*** off and die. It just reminds me of the Seafoam Islands from Kanto, except Game Freak had the bright idea to double the entrances and add an HM that's only useful in this spot in Dragon's Den. But again, both the Burn Tower and Seafoam Islands are entirely optional, and I can really appreciate that. Plus, they both started the trend of having 2 legendary box art Pokemon, which still reigns true to this day. Unfortunately though, they still kept the trend of having mythical legendaries to spark rumors, similar to Mew in the first game. Celebi is the second of the mythical Pokemon, a legendary being that can only be obtained via special events, which means if you're not Japanese, Hoenn. In Japanese games, players could obtain a GS Ball as an event item from the trade corner attendant through the mobile system GB and the Pokemon news machine at the Pokemon Communication Center in Goldenrod City. Did you get all that? Cause I didn't. Basically, it was a Japanese exclusive event for Crystal, and I can appreciate the callback to the playground rumors of Mew from the first game, but I still want to actively own these Pokemon without having to take a round trip to Japan just to get one. Celebi is my favorite legendary Pokemon, mainly due to my obsession with time travel and my fascination with how they managed to make an onion cute. It's just a shame that I had to wait years before I legitimately own this Pokemon.
Pokemon Gold and Silver are great games, and I really appreciated my time with them. I thought I was gonna come in here and bitch about how bad they are and how they don't hold up to today's standards, but I have to recommend them because I really appreciated my time going back through them. But they're not the cream of the crop like everybody thinks they are.
I really do like Pokemon Gold and Silver. I think the generation is great, but I think most people's affinity towards these games are because of the Heartgold and Soulsilver remakes. I debated talking about these two because they aren't Generation 2 games, but they're so wildly different than the first go round that the upgrades need to be mentioned. The Pokemon feel a lot more saturated in this game, alongside a lot of added dialogue options for side characters. Gym Leader rebattles, POW Park, pretty much every legendary you can possibly imagine. They solved a lot of my problems with pacing issues in the post-game, alongside adding a lot of quality of life issues that still weren't fully fleshed out in the second generation with the growing series. Pokemon Gold and Silver are great games. I really think that it is a proper sequel to the original games and an improvement in almost every way. I feel like it's a lot harder to appreciate these games now though. I feel like without having the Pokemon craze at its height, it's really hard to understand the nostalgia of these games at the time. But I mean, it was hard for me to know. I barely knew how to make a conversation when I was playing these games.
And with that, we are 2 games down and 6 more to go in the Pokemon Legacy. Taking a look at Ruby and Sapphire next, the Hoenn Region, and my personal favorite game in the series. It's gotta be nice to take off the rose-colored glasses and look at this game from an objective viewpoint. But before I can do that, I have to find my narrator because I really have no idea where in the hell he went. Is this what we're doing now? Like, are we... You're not even gonna give me a chance to finish, you're just gonna... Whatever, I don't care. You can do whatever the hell you want. Are you gonna start the outro?